They say to me, oh my God, I didn't know how much time I would get back, right? This is the number one comment I get.
Welcome to the Sunlight Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for self-employed people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're a creative or soul-centered entrepreneur or wellness practitioner who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place.
Hello, how are you today? I was in a group coaching call in this program that I'm in yesterday, and I had given a little demo in this program where I taught about taxes. I was teaching this group of entrepreneurs about how self-employment tax works, estimated quarterly taxes, kind of my standard teaching. And so in this group call yesterday, my coach was like, Hannah, you inspired me for the first time, for the first time in my life. I actually just went and got my taxes filed right away instead of going on to extension. And he was like, I want to thank you because it's been such a mental load lifted. I don't think I realized how heavy that mental load was of having stuff on extension and not being sure what I owed until I actually went ahead and got my taxes filed. Because now that I know, he's like, even though it was sort of painful and I owed more than I thought, the fact that it's done has freed me. And I have all this sort of space now mentally. And so that comment from my coach, thank you, Jeffrey, it inspired today's episode. I wanted to talk about that. The idea of the mental load of worry, especially anxiety about your taxes and even about retirement. So let's get into it. I want you to picture the nagging voice in your head, right? We all have one. So that nagging sort of fear voice in your head, I'm curious if you can identify what it's saying to you. What are the fears that are sitting there? There's probably a whole bunch. They probably go in all sorts of directions. But I bet when it comes to your business, that a lot of what the voice is talking about is fear about what if I'm doing it wrong? What if I get caught doing it wrong? What if the IRS catches me, in quotes, right, doing something wrong that I didn't even know was wrong? What if I get audited? Another version of this fear is like, what if I can never retire? What if I'm, going to die destitute, right? I don't know about you, but I have certainly had these nagging fears for a long time in my life before I turned into the tax professional that I am today. And to be honest, you know what? I still think about them. It's not completely gone, but it's dramatically different now. So I think the other side of this fear, though, is like, it would be one thing to just recognize that that voice is taking up a lot of space and actually taking a lot of your attention. But there's actually even something else in the way, I think, for a lot of us. And that is the feeling that getting the information you need is going to be too complicated. It's going to be too hard, or frankly, that you're going to be delivered the information by somebody who is charging you by the hour and who does not get you at all, who's not even going to be able to tailor things to your weird, creative, freedom-loving life or your tarot business, your online healthcare business, your, whatever it is, right? Your entrepreneurial weirdness that this accountant doesn't see at all the value of. And just that fear of being judged, right? The fear of that person shaming you for what you don't know, talking down to you. I once had this, in fact, many times in my younger life, have I had the experience of trying to go get something, in my early days in my first apartments, I would, every time you move, you have to go get something at the hardware store. There were certain hardware stores where I would walk in and the people who worked there, they were always men, would just literally use complicated terminology for things on purpose to show me how little I knew about it. Really, it was a real egoic thing of them. They're trying to prove what they know and that I'm not a part of it and they know more than I do. But having that feeling of somebody sort of like walking around, shaking around these big, big terms and making sure you know that you don't know this stuff and they do, right? That's the experience a lot of us have had with accountants. And so while this fear, this anxiety about your taxes, your tax system, your receipts, getting audited, whether or not you're putting enough money aside to save for retirement, whether retirement will ever be possible, whether you're going to die lonely and in poverty because you're not taking care of the financial stuff that you sort of know you need to be, but you aren't. The thing that's in the way for a lot of us is the fact that we don't feel that we can get clear, easy to understand information about these things quickly and easily without diving down a huge rabbit hole of time, research, or expense. And that fear of judgment, that fear that we should know this already, but we don't, and having somebody shame us for that, right? This is what I see as the problem. And I just want to be really clear that I have seen when I talk to my clients, so a lot of times in my program, Money Bootcamp, where, the whole point of my program is to get you through this problem, right? To teach you what you do need and what you don't need, to give you a really high level view of what the systems are in your taxes, in your retirement, in financial planning, and in your business setup, so that you can focus where you do need to put some effort and put those systems in place to make it smooth and streamlined every year to minimize your effort, and where you don't need to focus, where you're wasting time and you can quit doing that stuff, right? It is my goal to do that because I love you, right? All the creative weirdos in the world, all the people doing soulful, spiritual work, doing creative connection building work. I love you. You're who I want to support in this world. You are the reason I made my program. And I am not here to judge you or shame you. I have been judged and shamed, and I know what it feels like. I know how shitty it is. That's the point of what I do, is to get you past that without any judgment and actually while seeing the value of what you do every day. That's why I built my company and I built my program. But what I want to tell you about is that when I have a consulting call, a one-on-one call with people in my program, I see a pattern. And I just want to tell you about this because I think it's really interesting. The pattern that I see is that people who have their call with me, especially if the call is a month or two after they've been in Money Bootcamp, is they say to me, "Oh my God, I didn't know how much time I would get back." Right? This is the number one comment I get. I just had a call last week where this woman I was talking to, and a really amazing woman with a cool creative practice, was like, "Hannah, I just spent a couple hours doing creative work this morning that I wouldn't normally have time for because using your systems, it's just taken so much of the time away. Like, I didn't realize how much time I was spending stressing and like not knowing what I didn't know, that now that I just sort of have it all clarified, I have more time for my creative work." So I hear that over and over again. And it's my favorite thing. It's the most gratifying part of the work that I do, is getting to know that I get to help people have more time and feel unstressed, right? Take that sort of like mental load off, because you don't need to live with it. And the people in my program in general, when you do the work in the program, it stops. It stops. You actually can see the number that you need to put aside each month to put into retirement, and you use the accounts and the power triangle, and you know that it's working for you, and you have your tax systems, and you know where you need to focus, and you know what you've been wasting time on, and you can stop, right? So I want to give you a couple examples of this. First of all, like in 3 phone calls I had last week, I had people who got on the phone with me for their one-on-one consultation who were like, "I don't have any questions anymore. I booked this call, but since I've been through your program, you've already answered all the questions. So I don't actually have any questions." So we just like chit chat. And some of them are just like, "I'd rather just go work on my business now." So we hang up early, right? I had one client, Armenia, who is a witch and a healer. And she was like super, super stressed out. She didn't even know what she didn't know, which is really common, right? And she was super stressed out. And I remember that when she first joined my program, I looked at her website, and it was fine, right? It was sort of a normal website. It had a little logo, it had, blah, blah, blah. But a couple months in, right before I had a call with her, I hopped online and I checked out her website again, and it was completely transformed. Like the way that good branding and great product photography will just like give you that feeling of like, oh, wow. And that was the feeling I had when I looked at her website. She had really redone her branding. She had this gorgeous, like mysterious, smoky photography of her crystals and her sage sticks and these like, cool products that she has. And I talked to her about it on the call. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that your brand looks so professional. It looks so amazing. I want it. Right. And she was like, yeah, the fact is that website was like sitting there on my to-do list for ages, right? It's one of those things that you get to last. And it was all this stress about my tax systems and my money, my receipts, like all that sort of stress, partly just because I didn't know that I didn't know. And as soon as I joined your program and I kind of set up the system I needed, I had time again. I just suddenly had all this time open up. And I hadn't realized how much time that mental load was taking me. And so one of the products of it was that she did that rebrand. She did that product photography. She rebuilt her website. So of course, now she's attracting more and higher level clients, which is awesome. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that idea of the mental load of feeling disorganized and that worry that you're not going to be able to get the information you need, that it's not out there for you, or that you'll be judged as you try to get it. So I just want you to take a moment to picture what kind of ease would open up for you. What is the work you would do, you would finally get to if you knew that your tax system was totally set up to capture everything you needed every year, and you knew that you were doing it legally and correctly, that if the IRS ever sent you an audit letter, you would have exactly what you needed in the right place, right? That it would not actually be a big deal. What would happen if you knew that you were using the power triangle of tax planning, tax advantaged, hypercharged accounts, and investing your money in order to grow your FU money? What if you had that system in place and you knew that you were building wealth in the background of your life? What kind of ease would it open up for you if you didn't have to worry anymore about retirement or taxes or your business setup? What could you do? What kind of an impact could you have with your work? Think about that. Now, it is my goal here at Sunlight Tax, with my program, with my podcast, with everything I do, it is my goal to help you understand what you do need and what you don't need when it comes to LLCs, business setup, your taxes, your retirement, investing, right? The point is not to turn you into a tax nerd. The point is to get you what you need right away, set you up with a system that helps you make it easier every year, not just 1 year, so that you can have a bigger impact with your work. Because ultimately, that's the point. We don't need you to become a tax professional. We need you to do more of the amazing work you are doing in the world already. All right. So to that end, I want you to know that I am about to open up my program for its final enrollment before the tax deadline this year. So my program will be opening on March 23rd, and I will be kicking it off with a free class called Understand Your Taxes and Make Money, the ultimate guide to the hard parts of self-employment. This class I am revamping and revising. It's going to be a little more tax focused than the one I did a month ago, 2 months ago. It's going to help you feel a sense of understanding about your taxes. It's going to talk about the systems that you do need and don't need so that you have a clear understanding of how to get to this setup that puts more ease in your life and takes away that underlying mental load of anxiety. So come to the class. It's free. It's going to be really good. And there's no replay. So I am trying something a little new this time. I am going to prioritize the people who show up live together in that space. There's a certain energy that happens when you come live that I love. And so I want to really reward the people who mark it down on their calendar, clear the space. I did do it in the lunch hour if you're in the East Coast. So hopefully you can make it. It's going to be March 23rd at noon East Coast time, just going to be a little over an hour. And you can register for it at go.sunlighttax.com/free. So mark it on your calendar. There's no replay, but I'm going to give it my all. So you are going to get the maximum tax education that I can fit into an hour and 15 minutes. You will also learn the framework that I use inside my program and how we set up this system. You're going to really, if you've been curious about Money Bootcamp, if you're sort of wondering if maybe it would fit or not fit for you, this is not a high pressure sales situation, but I do talk about the program. And so you'll see what's in it and how it works and whether or not it's a fit for you. So come learn some of the biggest mistakes I see people make with their money. Come learn the framework I use in my program. We're going to do a bunch of tax deep dives, and we're going to talk about what the systems are that you need to set yourself up for easier taxes, simplified systems. So you know you have everything locked down and set up legally, properly, and you're growing your FU money. I can't wait for you to join me in this live class, March 23rd. You can sign up at go.sunlighttax.com/free. Thanks so much, everybody. I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. It really helps, and share it with a friend. I'm so grateful. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.